Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the All Things Good podcast. I am your host, jovannasurillo, and I'm here to remind you that you are amazing, you are beautiful, you are blessed. And I also want to remind you that this podcast is meant to bring you encouragement, to bring you hope, to bring life, to shine light in dark areas of your life, because that is what I'm called to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to shine light in dark areas. I want your relationships. I want your emotions. I want your mind to be in a place of wholeness, a place of enlightenment, a place of joy. So if that's what you're looking for, then you've come to the right podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you share. I do appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Okay, let's move on. What are we going to talk about today? Today, we are going to discuss the need for you to speak up because your life depends on it. Believe it or not, it does. Your life depends on what you say and what you don't say. You ever heard of a thing called boundaries? Yes. It actually comes with your ability to speak. I've come out of a long season of being silent. Now, notice I did not say I was silenced, because no one can take your voice unless you allow them to. And let me say that again. No one can take your voice unless you allow them to. And so I was silent. Why was I silent? I do not know. Fear? Fear tends to put us in a place of stagnation and puts us in a place where we feel like we cannot be vocal about the things that bother us, about the things that we need to confront, about the things that we want to see changed. So I want to tell you today that if you do not speak on the things you're not okay with, then your life is bound to stay the same. Now, my last podcast, I spoke about change and the need to move forward and accept that change. In order for you to begin that process, you need to begin with the process of speaking up. That relationship you're in, that friendship you're in, that workplace that you're in, that you're not okay with, it's okay for you to speak up. Now, I highly suggest that before you speak up, that you process everything. Process your emotions. Process your thoughts. Process the outcome that you are looking for. Because it is unhealthy for anyone to speak without processing. What does that look like? What that looks like in our day-to-day conversation. You ever get into a conversation with someone and emotions are out of control and they say things that they don't mean, or you say things that you don't mean, and all of a sudden everyone is hurt? That's because emotions have not been processed. And we need to come out of that place. We need to come out of the place where we're saying things that we don't mean, or saying things from a place of anger or frustration or fear. So when you speak up, first and foremost, make sure that first you have processed every emotion that comes up during that situation. Once you have processed those emotions, you can either write them down, you can discuss, you can make pointers, a PowerPoint presentation of what you want to speak on, so that when the conversation comes about, everything that bothers you, concerns you, or even, it doesn't necessarily have to be a conversation that's bad. It can be a good conversation. Just make sure that your points are laid out so that you can discuss them in a proper way. Now, we can't control what the other person says. We can't control their emotions and their reactions. We can only control ours. So prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for their reaction and their response. It might go in a direction that you hoped for. It might go in a direction that you did not expect. Either way, prepare yourself. But do not let your fear of a relationship to come to an end, or your fear of confrontation, or your fear of the wrong things being said on the other party's part, stop you from saying what you need to say. Because what you have to say matters. And if anyone ever makes you feel like it doesn't matter, then you might just be in the wrong relationships. You might be in the wrong workplace. You might be in the wrong friendship. Because what you say matters. Doesn't mean it's accurate. Doesn't mean that everything you say is accurate, or is truthful, or is correct in both perspectives. But it should be heard and it should be acknowledged. It's funny because as I came out of this season of being silent, I came across an organization that has truly blessed me and has blessed many others since their launch. And the name of the organization is As She Speaks, She Will Be Heard. And their vision is to bring healing, to bring restoration, to bring empowerment through the arts. And it also combines mental health, coaching, mental health healing. She's a clinical therapist. And her main goal is to have people who have a voice to actually speak up and say what they need to say and be heard, but to do it in a healthy way. And I think it's amazing that I came across this organization. I'm actually a management coordinator now, which actually excites me because it's everything that I stand for: mental health, healing, the arts, speaking, being creative, and dealing with people. It's amazing. It's amazing to me that that we have crossed paths in the season of our lives. And so for me to say that is this: when you decide that you're done staying silent and you actually make a decision to speak up, things will begin to align. Things will begin to shift in your life. It is scientifically proven and also biblically proven, and I'm not going in scripture, but it is proven in both realms that when we speak, landscapes and atmospheres begin to change. And it begins to change in your favor. Things actually start to line up for you. But when you don't speak up, nothing moves. Nothing changes. But let me tell you what does change. You begin to lose your position in your own life. You begin to lose the authority that you have in your life. And the next thing you know, because you failed to speak up, everything is changing. Things are happening in your life, decisions are being made, but not because of you, but because of someone else. You lose yourself in the process. And even in that process, you may even lose any relationships or friendships that you cared about. You may even lose your job because you couldn't speak up on the things that were bothering you. And now you have an attitude and no one knows why. Because you didn't speak up. Listen, when you speak, make sure that you're speaking from a place of compassion. Make sure it's from a place of understanding and empathy. Please do not yell. A lot of people think that because, I'm not being heard, that I need to yell so that they can hear me clearly. That is false information. That is fake news. It's a lie. People do not respond to yelling. And on the contrary, people actually, they shut down when they hear someone raise their voice. They shut down when, it could be a defense mechanism. They might fight or flight. They might, get defensive and yell back. And then it's like the whole point of communication and speaking up is, down the drain because now you're both yelling. Don't yell. It's not a place of authority. You don't have power because you're raising your voice. On the contrary, you're losing the fight when you begin to yell. And if you care about this relationship or friendship or situation, whatever it may be, just come at it in a place of healthiness. Now, there's situations where, let's say, for instance, you're doing everything right. You processed your emotions, you have understanding, you're approaching it with empathy, and you're able to understand both perspectives. But the person that you're approaching does not allow you to speak. What do? How many of us have been in that situation where you attempt to speak and either your conversation, what you're saying, is not being heard, or they're overriding everything you're saying by what they are saying? That happens often. Then I would say that they are not emotionally intelligent, and therefore they do not honor your thoughts or words. And this will ultimately reveal to you where you stand in their life. And it is therefore up to you to make the decision for yourself. Do you choose to stay, or do you try again? And how many times do you try before you actually give up? That's entirely up to you. All I have to say is make sure you don't lose yourself, because everyone wants to be heard. It's actually a form of love to allow someone to speak and be vulnerable or voice their concerns. And if that friendship, that relationship, that workplace, that family member does not allow that, then they don't truly know love. And again, that's up for you to decide on what you're going to do. Not me. It's your life. I'm just helping you to navigate through this season. If you are in this season where you want to speak and you want to be heard, then I'm giving you tools on what you need to do. Now, if you're on the other end of the spectrum and all you do is speak and you don't allow anyone else to be heard, then I have one thing to say to you. Humble yourself. It's not all about you. Well, that about wraps up this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you have received insight and tools to help you speak up, because your life depends on it. If you have any questions, there's a question box on Spotify, and I will leave it open for you, and I will go ahead and address your question on the next podcast. I'll talk to you later. Go on with your bad self.